Happy Monday, everyone. It is Testa and Neal. Keep it real right here on WWSU 106.9 FM and, of course, on our YouTube feed as well. I'm Shea Neal. Alongside with me, Parker Testa. We're actually on time today, Parker, which is very, very rare for people like us. But we got a lot to get into today. NBA playoffs underway. Phil Mickelson gets the job done. Old man Phil wins a major. And
good for Phil.
Yeah, good for Phil. We're proud of him. And we still got plenty more to get into as well. How about the Raider gang, man? We're going to get into that a little bit later on today. But that team is red hot going into the tournament.
No doubt about it. I mean, Sammy Sass played fantastic baseball in their game this weekend.
Year, really.
Yeah, I mean, especially this weekend. But so they go into the Horizon League tournament. They will host the Horizon League tournament at the Niche next weekend.
I'm excited, and I'm going to definitely try to make it there for at least a couple of the games for sure. But it's been a really fun year for Wright State sports, and the baseball team has not disappointed in any way. So I'm actually going to take off my glasses so the reflection's gone, but I don't want people to see that on the YouTube feed. So you're going to get to see, bare-faced Shea for a little bit today. But let's start off with the NBA playoffs, the hot topic right now. We got underway with 8 games over the weekend, and let's start with the ones from Saturday. It started off with the Heat and the Bucks, and it was just as good as advertised. I told you last week I thought this might be one of the one or two best series of the first round. Giannis was a little not as good as we've seen Giannis, but he wasn't bad. Middleton stepped up pretty well. Drew Holiday played really strong defense on Jimmy Butler. The Bucks end up with a 109-107 win in overtime, but the way those two teams played yesterday, Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo did not have their best games. I really think this series could go 7.
I think so too. I mean, you look at the Miami Heat roster, the people who had good games, Goran Dragic and Duncan Robinson. So some names that you might not expect to have some fantastic outings, but they certainly did that. They're what. They put up a heck of a fight, but Milwaukee just played fantastically. Chris Middleton had 27, Giannis had 26, Drew Holiday had 20, Brook Lopez had 18, and that was the majority of the scoring for Milwaukee. So they end up pulling that one out in overtime, and I'm with you. I mean, I see no reason why this series should not go 7. If game 1 is any indication, this series is going to be a lot of fun.
No doubt about it. And Jimmy Butler is a freaking superhero, man. I mean, this guy played 46 minutes. Only sat out 2 minutes of that basketball game. Well, I guess overtime said he sat out 7. But still, 46 minutes, that's insane. And then, especially in the NBA, at the highest level, where for a lot of that game, he was guarding Giannis Antetokounmpo, who is not an easy task to defend by any means. And we said this was not his best game. He shot, 4 of 22 from the field. That's not good. 2 of 9 from 3, but you still look at the stat line, 17 points, 10 rebounds, 8 assists, 2 steals, and a block. Even when he's playing at his worst, Jimmy Butler's still putting his team in a position to win basketball games, and that's why he's such a valuable player for the Miami Heat.
Yeah, he was one of the players that single-handedly, I don't want to say single-handedly, but was a very key factor in getting this team to the NBA Finals last year. So, and I think if there was any year that was tough to get to the finals, more tough than any previous year, it was last year down there in Orlando. And the Heat showed that they had fight, and they fought their way all the way to the NBA Finals last year. So they definitely have the talent. Tyler Hero was one of the just the heck of a story there. Tyler Hero is, so he was crucial in that playoff, that finals run last year. But if the Miami Heat are involved, and if Eric Spoelstra is your head coach, I never count out the Miami Heat.
No, not at all. And I completely agree. I think this Heat team's got a lot of fight in them. And like I said, Bam Adebayo and Jimmy Butler combined to shoot 8 of 37. I don't think that's going to happen across the course of this series. And they still lost by 2 in overtime. So this Heat team is very dangerous. But this Bucks team is also very dangerous. This Bucks team didn't play their best game of basketball either. Giannis, 10 of 27 from the field. It ended up with 26 points, 18 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 steals. But we know Giannis can play better. Chris Middleton had 27 points. He played pretty well. And then Dante DiVincenzo only 3 points, but he had 10 rebounds and 4 assists out of the guard spot. Drew Holiday as well contributed 20 points, 11 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 steals. Drew Holiday has been quite the pickup for the Milwaukee Bucks, giving them a much needed third star. This Bucks team is really deep, and I mean, just looking at both of these rosters, I think both of these teams have room to improve throughout the course of this series. But I think both of these teams are very evenly matched, and I'm really excited for Game 2.
I am too. I think Miami's not done. I expect Miami to come out and they're going to get off to a fast start, play very strong in the first half. I think they will here in Game 2. I wouldn't be surprised if Milwaukee won this game, but after losing a heartbreaker like that in overtime, Miami's going to come out with a vengeance, and they're going to want to get revenge in Game 2.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So let's move on to the second game of the first round that happened on Saturday, and that was the Dallas Mavericks and the LA Clippers. We both picked the Mavericks to win this series, so I'm not going to say I told you so, but I've been high on the Mavericks ever since the season really started. And it was very, very rewarding to see that team play that style of basketball. I mean, obviously, Paul George wasn't great. He was okay. Ended up with 23 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists. Kawhi Leonard with 26 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists, and 4 steals. But let's be real, Parker. The Clippers got outplayed by the Dallas Mavericks. Luka continues to just put together an unbelievable resume for a kid that's 22 years old. He, again, another playoff triple-double, 31, 10, and 11. Kristaps with 14 points, 4 rebounds. He didn't even play that great, and they still won by double-digit points. 18 from Dorian Finney-Smith, 21 from Hardaway Jr. Jalen Brunson had 15. I think what makes this Mavericks team more dangerous to knock off the Clippers than the one that came up short last year is that this team is deeper, where if Kristaps doesn't play all-star level Kristaps Porzingis, last year that knocked him out of the playoffs when he couldn't play Kristaps level Kristaps. This year, if it happens, I mean, they still got 3 or 4 guys that can help Luka out. This team is very dangerous, and my Mavs in 7 pick feels really good here today.
Yeah, this is a tough one because the Clippers still have, 2 of the best players in the entire league in Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. So I'm not counting the Clippers out of this by any means. I know I picked the Dallas Mavericks as well in our picks that we did last week, but just the fight that the Mavericks show. I mean, Porzingis played fantastically. Luka had 31. Tim Hardaway Jr. had 21. Jalen Brunson off the bench had 15. So this is a very talented Dallas team that can play in multiple different styles, and they do. They throw many different sorts of plays at you. They go back and forth from zone to man defense depending on the situation. So they're a very fast team, and they switch a lot, which makes them very tough to score on. So this Mavericks team is very strong, and I wouldn't be surprised to see the Clippers win this series. But I think the Mavericks will ultimately win the series. They came out and they played a heck of a game in Game 1.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, the Mavericks are led by a coach that I'm very high on. I know you are as well, Rick Carlisle. He's done a lot of great things with that team. But I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but I'm just looking at the Western Conference playoff picture here. The Grizzlies and the Jazz, which we'll get into in a little bit. But the Jazz right now, or Donovan Mitchell's hurt, didn't play in Game 1. We don't know what he's going to do for Game 2. But without Donovan Mitchell, that Jazz team is average. The Grizzlies are very talented, but they're very young. And then moving on to the other side of the bracket, the Blazers, again, very talented, but are beatable. The Nuggets, maybe the most talented team outside of in the West, outside of maybe the Lakers or something like that. And then the Lakers are good with LeBron and Anthony Davis, but as we saw in Game 1 against Phoenix, they're vulnerable. And then Phoenix, another team like the Grizzlies, very good, but very inexperienced. It's not out of the realm of possibility with the talent of Luka Doncic and the talent of this Dallas Mavericks team, especially led under a very talented coach in Rick Carlisle. If they get hot at the right time, which they looked really good in Game 1, this could be a team that finds themselves into the Western Conference Finals, and who knows, maybe even the NBA Finals.
Yeah, right. And you talked about vulnerability. Vulnerability is killer in the NBA playoffs. If a team finds a weak point in your defense or your offense, they will hammer that weak point as much as they can until you give them a reason not to. So if they find a hole in, like, maybe say you don't defend underneath the rim well, they'll attack underneath the basket as much as they can. On the flip side of that, if they find out that you can't shoot or you have trouble shooting the ball on the perimeter, they will lock down the inside, or they will lock down the 15-foot radius around the basket, so you cannot get inside there, and they'll make you shoot it from the perimeter. So whatever your weak point may be, you just got to figure out a way to keep it quiet for a series or two, and even throughout the entire playoffs, because the teams that can keep that weak point at bay is the team that find themselves in the NBA Finals, possibly winning it all.
No doubt about it. And I mean, I think the first two matchups that we talked about here, the Bucks and the Heat, and then the Clippers and the Mavericks, I'm glad that they were the first two series to start in the playoffs, because I think they're my two favorite ones in this entire playoffs. I think the star power is there for all four of those teams. The coaching is there for all four of those teams. And they're just really, all four of them are just really, really good teams. And I think it's really, really good matchups on both sides. And game one delivered in both of those series. And I mean, I could see both of these series that we just talked about going 7 games. And honestly, I'd be surprised if one of these teams found a way to end it sooner than 6 or 7 games.
Yeah, doesn't surprise me at all. These series are, I mean, just unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
Milwaukee is a very talented team. We all know how talented they are. Giannis has been an MVP finalist the last 2 years. So and then on the flip side of that, the Clippers are very talented with Kawhi and PG there in LA. But the two big men, we talked about it last week, two big men are killer in basketball. We talked about it with Loudon Love and Grant Basile. Same deal with Porzingis and Luka. I mean, they're tough to stop. If you shut down one of them, you're doing great. Because if you shut down one, I mean, if you shut down, it's nearly impossible to shut down both guys.
Yeah.
And that's what we saw a lot of teams do against the Raiders last year. They picked one or the other, and they shut them down. And you just got to be okay with the other one just killing you throughout the entire game, because
Yeah.
it's not going to stop.
Yeah.
So yeah, the NBA right now is just lives off of shooting, but some good old fashioned basketball is something that I love. Hammer it inside, get to the bucket, lay it in. We love to see a sexy dunk every now and then. So it's the NBA right now is, I mean, I personally, I'm not a big fan of watching the NBA right now, but I am watching right now because the NBA
Yeah.
playoffs is always a lot of fun to watch every single year. And these first two series that we've talked about haven't let us down yet.
No, not at all. And I'm glad that you mentioned that, because I'm like 100% in that same boat. I maybe watched like 6 or 7 NBA games all season long. And I've been glued to my TV all weekend watching these playoff games because they're really, really entertaining. And I'm 100% with you. Dallas is blessed with outstanding size. Not only do they have the 7'3" Kristaps Porzingis, but their backcourt's tall. Jalen Brunson, a 6'5" point guard. Luka Doncic, a 6'8", 2, 3, whatever you want to call him. He pretty much plays every position. Maxi Kleba, another 6'11" forward. And then you also have Dwight Powell, 6'10", but really athletic. I mean, this Dallas team has size off the charts. And like you said, the Clippers' biggest weakness is that their two bigs are Marcus Morris and Zubac. And I mean, Zubac and Morris are solid role players, but how are they going to slow down Porzingis, Luka, and Kleba? Like, that's just the talent's on a different level.
You can't, and it's that it's like I said earlier. You just got to pick one, and you got to be okay with the other one just scoring at will, because that's what they do. And it's not just about scoring. I mean, even though that's what it seems like, we've seen a lot of 155 to 149 games this year. But these first two games, I mean, in all of these first games in all of these series, I mean, Nets Celtics game one was 104-93. That's the typical NBA game that everyone's used to seeing, and that's not 150 to 148. I mean, the defensive basketball is something that personally I love to see.
I
This
agree.
Suns Lakers game one that we'll get to here in a minute. Neither team scored 100 in this game.
Yeah,
Suns won 99 to 90. So, and how about the defensive effort from the Phoenix Suns holding
yeah,
the Lakers
they
to
were
just 90
great.
points?
They were great. And
Unbelievable.
I'm excited to give the Suns a lot of props because I think I was pretty quick to write off the Suns last week because I just thought, LeBron's not going to lose. And it's very possible that LeBron still doesn't lose. But this Suns team is going to give him every single thing he can take. I mean, this Suns team looked outstanding today, and we'll get to that in a second. But like you mentioned, Nets and Celtics, that was the third game of the weekend. I'm a Jason Tatum fan, so I don't need people to tell me that Jason Tatum is good at basketball. Like, I know that. I'm a fan of Jason Tatum. He's going to win an MVP in the next 2 or 3 years. This guy, Boston had no business hanging with this Nets team as long as they did. Jason Tatum is maybe a borderline top 5 player in the league now. I mean, he is a no doubt about it superstar, and I think he's going to win an MVP sooner rather than later.
And he didn't shoot the ball very well
He didn't
either.
play that great.
He shot 30%, 6 for 20 from the field, and he still had 22. I mean, this guy is he's just damn good. That's all I can say is because I mean, he's the guy on the Boston Celtics right now that they play through. And even and every other team that they're going against knows that, and they still can't stop him.
Mm.
It's unbelievable. So this game one was in this Nets and Celtics series was one that lived up to the hype. I mean, just immensely. Durant had 32. Kyrie had 29. James Harden had 21. It's unbelievable. Blake Griffin scored 1 point, one point,
Way
but
to go, Blake.
they still won 104 to 93. So,
Yeah. And
um,
unfortunately for Jason Tatum and unfortunately for Brad Stevens, two individuals who I like a lot, I have a feeling what we saw in game one is going to be how this series kind of plays out. Tatum and Stevens and this Boston team hang with them for 2.5, 3 quarters, and then the Nets pull away. I think that's honestly how this series is going to go in almost every game because, like we said, without Jaylen Brown, even if the Celtics had Jaylen Brown, the Nets are the better team. But without Jaylen Brown, there's a pretty wide talent gap. And credit to the Celtics, credit to Jason Tatum for hanging for as long as they did. I mean, they're a tough physical basketball team. But at the end of the day, Durant, Harden, and Kyrie Irving are going to beat this team. And I think that what we saw in game one is going to be what happens in games 2, 3, 4, 5, however long it takes. I mean, Celtics can hang around for 2 or 3 quarters, but I think it's inevitable that the Nets pull away.
yeah, I'm with you. You know, Brooklyn is this year's super team. It seems that every year we have a super team that just plays the heck or that just beats everybody, and they have more talent than the rest of the league. They
Yep.
have better players than the rest of the league. They score more than everybody else. And that's Brooklyn this year. They have Durant, they have Griffin, they have Irving, they have Harden. I mean, just go down the list. Those four alone, on their own, can win games for any other team
Absolutely.
in the league. So just those four are what has driven Brooklyn to, I think, what will ultimately be a finals appearance this year.
And I'm with you. I mean, we talked about Philly a little bit earlier, or we'll get to talking about Philly here in just a minute. Their first round game against the Wizards. I think, I mean, Philly didn't look terrible, but Philly didn't look like a 1 seed to me today. I still think there's a pretty decent gap between the Brooklyn Nets and the Miami Heat, the Milwaukee Bucks, the Philadelphia 76ers, New York Knicks. Brooklyn's got a head and shoulders above almost everyone else in the East. And I think if Brooklyn goes out before the NBA Finals, it would be the story of the season.
Yeah, and it's like this is what I can best comparison that I have. It's like a 12 losing to a 5.
Yeah,
Or I'm sorry,
it's worse.
5 losing to a 12.
It's
honestly, it's like a 14 beating a 3.
Right.
Yeah.
If Brooklyn loses, it's like Middle Tennessee State beating Michigan State. It's like, what the hell happened?
Yeah. So and
It's like Wright
everyone,
State beating Michigan State back in 2000. Like, what happened? How the hell did Michigan State come and lose to Wright State?
yeah, yeah, right. So the if Boston wins this series, especially this first round series,
Oh my God.
and Brooklyn loses in the first round, it'll be news for the entire summer.
If
The
Brooklyn
entire
loses,
summer.
if Brooklyn loses to a Boston team without Jaylen Brown, Brad Stevens needs to be given a lifetime contract. I'm not saying that as a Brad Stevens fan. I'm saying if you find a way to beat this Brooklyn Nets team with Jason Tatum and Joe Schmo from the Boston Dairy Market, you deserve all the money in the world, and you deserve to be considered the Celtics coach for the next 30 years.
Yeah, yeah, and that's what I mean. I know how bad both of us wanted Brad to go to IU, but I mean,
Boston's
if
such a good gig. I can't blame them.
right, yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, if I was the coach of the Boston Celtics, as much as I love IU, I
Right.
ain't leaving Boston.
Right.
There's no
That's
way.
like that's like, I'm trying to think of that's like if I'm trying to think of a good example. But like you have you're the coach of the Lakers and your alma mater offers you a gig. Of course you want to go back to your alma mater. I mean, Brad Stevens didn't go to IU, but of course you want to go back to your hometown, your home state, and be the coach of a historic team like that. But do you really walk away from the Los Angeles Lakers? Do you really walk away from the Boston Celtics? I don't think you do. I mean, you talk about IU has all this history. You talk about IU has all these titles, all these big recruits. Mr. Indiana every year wants to go to IU. And that's true. But the Boston Celtics have the most championships out of any team in the history of professional basketball. The Boston Celtics have some of the greatest teams in the history of basketball, the sport. To be able to put on your LinkedIn page that you're the head coach of the Boston Celtics, I mean, there's nothing really more badass in basketball than that.
No, no. I mean, for a guy who came from Butler University, a school that was in the Horizon League when Brad was the coach there, goes from the head coach at Butler straight in to the head job in one of the most historical franchises in basketball
In
history.
sports history. I mean,
It's
throw
it's an unbelievable story.
yeah.
It really is. I mean, he was a graduate assistant at Butler,
Uh-huh.
he eventually he's just a graduate assistant. Gets the head coaching job. Did fantastic things at Butler, and then Boston calls and say, "Hey, we want you to be our head job here." No way in hell I am turning down that job.
No. And I mean, we just looked it up last week. He's still like 36 years old.
Right?
He's got
Yes.
players on his roster that are older than him. It's unbelievable. And I mean, it's like you said. I mean, I mean, the Celtics are right up there with the Lakers for the most historic basketball team, but put them up against the Cowboys, put them up against the New York Yankees, put them up against the Dodgers. I mean, the Celtics are one of the 5 or 6 teams that pop in my head for any sport.
Right. Yeah. And even, I mean, and the reason for that is Bill Russell and the history of, I mean, just the great, all the great Celtics
Larry
teams.
Bird,
They're
John
right.
Havlicek, Kevin McHale, Paul Pierce, Ray Allen, Kevin Garnett. I mean, the Celtics have never been a bad team.
No, no. They've had their down years, but all teams have their down years.
Yeah.
So and you never see the Boston Celtics have a lottery pick. Never.
Never.
Because quite frankly, we both know, and all of sports fans know, that losing is not acceptable in Boston. You either win
Not at
or
all.
or there's riots. You
Yeah.
win or there's riots, and
Right.
there's no in between in Boston. So, yeah, we see good Celtics teams. We see Celtics teams in the Eastern Conference Finals. What seems like every 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, and it's the last thing I'll say about Brad Stevens. I mean, making that jump, like you said, from Butler to the Celtics, that's like, I mean, Scott Nagy going from Wright State to Duke. It's like that's like Duke when Coach K retires, calling Scott Nagy. I mean, you don't turn down Duke. I mean, he loved what he did at Butler, and he was so good at it. But I don't even think Brad Stevens expected the Boston Celtics to call the head coach of Butler.
That's like if the Bulls call Scott Nagy right now,
Right.
and
Right.
say, "We want you to be our head coach." No way. I'm not turning that down. No way.
That's like Fox Sports Houston calls you tonight. It's like, hey, we want you to do a weekend show. You're sitting here at 19 years old. I mean, you like what you do here with WWSU, but I'd be upset with you. And did you see me pull back? Oh my goodness,
Y-
did you see me pull back?
You did. You saved it. Great job.
I would be very upset with you if you turned that down.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, and I have a feeling you would literally pack a box of all the things on my desk
I would
when I
help
get
you
there and
pack.
say, "You are leaving."
Right. You're taking this
Because-
job.
And if
Sports
you don't
director
take
of WWSU is, yeah, you're not turning that down.
and if you don't take this job, I will fire you. So that's basically what that is, though. And give Brad Stevens credit. He has had times where he has one of the best teams in basketball, and he has won with virtually nothing.
I'm still trying to catch my breath from pulling that back and not doing the third FCC violation in the last week and a half. But I get worked up, man. I get worked up. Oh, man. I've told like 6 different people about the situation we had last week, and everyone is in agreement that the word that we said is very, very confusing. And I'm like, I agree. It's
It's a tough line to
Yeah,
walk.
it's the one word that I've been told. Like I've been told all the words that you can't say on radio. That one is the one that's like in my common vocabulary, and it's like the one that doesn't feel like a bad word, so it just kind of comes out sometimes.
Right.
So, but I'm really happy that I don't have to hit the dump button now. So that's a W. But let's get into the final game of Saturday. And this is one of maybe the biggest surprise of the first round so far. The Portland Trailblazers. I mean, Portland's good enough to win against the Nuggets, but they dominated, really. Let's be real. I mean, they controlled this game from start to finish. Did the Blazers. Robert Covington was great. 21 points from the in that, excuse me, 8 points, but a plus minus of 21. 4 rebounds, 5 rebounds. God, I can't even read a stat sheet. A block, and Rocco is known as one of the best bench players in the league, one of the best defenders in the league. Robert Covington's been so valuable his whole career. Damian Lillard, 34 points. Goodness gracious, I can't read the stat sheet. I had 3 games in a row where I was doing all right, and now I can't read the stats here. But 34 for Damian Lillard, 13 assists as well. CJ McCollum with 21, Carmelo Anthony with 18, Anthony Simons with 14. And the Blazers win at 123-109 over the Denver Nuggets. Nuggets were led by Nikola Jokic with 34 points, 16 rebounds. Michael Porter Jr. had 25 points and 9 rebounds. 10 points from Monte Morris off the bench, 16 from Aaron Gordon. But like I said, Portland seized control of this game early and really didn't give it up. So, I mean, I thought the Nuggets might have been – I think the Nuggets, in a lot of ways, are the most talented team in the West that's in the playoffs. But credit where credit's due. Portland really looked good. Portland controlled this game, and Portland showed that they're not going to be a pushover team, and they've got just as much of a shot in this series.
Yeah, no doubt about it. We talked about how important the fast start is, and that's what Portland got out to in this game and in this series. If you win game one, you have all the momentum going in to the rest of the series, especially if you get down
Especially because they
2-0.
won it in Denver.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Anytime you can win on the road, it's incredibly valuable to not only to your team as a whole, but the momentum that you have.
Yeah.
Especially going back, if you win game one and game two, and then you go back to your home court, it's basically series over for me.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times that's what happens. You win. Winning on the road in any sport at any level is really tough to do, and you take the wins where you can get them, especially in the NBA playoffs. So credit where credit's due. Portland came out and they played their hearts out and really dominated a Denver team that looked pretty lost.
For sure. Yeah. And I mean, a little bit of the whipped cream on the turd, if you will, for the Denver Nuggets. Michael Porter Jr., how much has he improved this year? Oh, my goodness. I mean, we knew he was a top tier prospect because he was, I mean, before he got hurt, when he went to Missouri, he was considered by a lot of people to maybe be the number 1 overall pick. He fell to 15 with the Nuggets. Hasn't really made a ton of an impact his first, year and a half in the NBA, but it started in the bubble in Orlando last year. He started to improve, and this year he's been really, really good. His first ever playoff game, 26 points. I mean, in a lot of ways, he looked better than Jokic for a lot of that game. So with Jokic, with poor MPJ, and then with Jamal Murray fully healthy, I mean, no matter what happens to Denver in this playoffs, they're going to be good for a lot of years to come.
Yeah, yeah, and Denver's a team that a lot of people would consider they have the most depth of any team in the NBA,
Mm-hmm.
and I would agree with them. I
I
mean, we
agree
talked
too.
about this. We talked about this at the end of last week with MPJ, Aaron Gordon, Nikola Jokic, Austin Rivers, Paul Millsap, Ball, JaVale McGee, and a healthy Jamal Murray. This is one of the on paper. This is one of the better teams in the NBA, and this team really just kind of struggled. Not kind of, they did struggle against Portland at home on or in game one. So um, hopefully we see Denver kind of get their things together a little bit, and I think they will. I think they have
I
enough
agree.
talent to where they can get it together and make it a series with Portland that when in a series that I think is going to go 6 or 7.
Yeah, I agree. I still think Denver finds a way to win this. But Portland, I think I was pretty confident on Denver in 6. Last week when we made our picks, way Portland play yesterday. I mean, now I'm thinking more Denver in 7. And I know I mentioned earlier that I'm at the point where you can't bet against LeBron in the playoffs, and we're getting to that point with Damian Lillard too. I mean, Damian Lillard just elevates to a new level every single year in the playoffs. Um, and he showed once again over the weekend that it's Dame time. And I mean, he's a top 5 player in the NBA. It seems like every year come the playoffs.
Yeah, yeah, and he's one of the better players in the NBA in the last 5 years, and everybody knows that. Everybody knows how good Dame Lillard is. If you don't think Dame Lillard's good, you don't know sports at all. And if you think that Dame Lillard is not one of the one of the most clutch players in not only the NBA right now, but NBA history, you
Mm-hmm.
don't know sports at all. Get off the air or whatever you do. Be quiet and
Stop
stop
listening to our
talking.
show.
Um,
Go read a
just
book.
read a book, watch Sports Center for literally 5 minutes, and they will probably talk about Dame Lillard. But yeah, it's just how good he is, and there's no denying it. And if, like I said, if you deny it, stop talking, stop following sports, go to bed because no one wants to hear you. No one wants to hear you talk about how quote unquote bad Dame Lillard is because he's not. He is not.
Stop it.
So,
It's not.
I mean, and this game is just proof. I mean, he was 5 for 12 from 3,
Yeah.
and it was just a scoring onslaught. There when in Denver, he came out and shot the heck out of the ball and led Portland to win Game 1 in Denver.
And I think one of my most hated parts about the Dame Lillard comps, I guess, is everyone's always comparing him to Steph Curry, and that's just going to be the common thing because Steph Curry is the best point guard in the NBA right now. But I've heard so many people say Dame Lillard's not as good of a shooter as Steph Curry. Dame Lillard's not as good of a scorer as Steph Curry. Are we forgetting that Steph Curry is not the greatest shooter in the history of basketball? Like Damian Lillard is still an elite shooter, an elite scorer. Yeah, he's not as good as the best shooter of all time, but he's still
Yeah,
pretty freaking good.
yeah, yeah. The comparison for that is like comparing Justin Kenner to Howard Stern. I mean, there's just no argument. I mean, Justin is good
I
at
was
what he
hoping you'd say
does.
it's like comparing you to me, but
Uh yeah,
uh,
you're giving yourself too much credit.
you're right. You're right.
But yeah, I mean, it's like comparing Justin to Howard Stern. Howard Stern is arguably the greatest radio host in history. And I mean, granted, Justin is great at what he does, but it's not a fair comparison.
No.
It's really not. Comparing Dame Lillard to Steph Curry, Curry is the greatest shooter of the basketball of all time. I
Mhm.
know a lot of you are Ray Allen was better. No, he wasn't. Ray Allen did not put up the kind of numbers that Steph Curry has, and Steph Curry will be number one on any shooting percentage or 3-point percentage, 3-point shots made, any list, he will be number one on it by the end of his career. I don't care what you say. He will play until he breaks these records. It's like Drew Brees. He will play until he breaks any passing or shooting record, whatever you want to do. He will play until he breaks these records. Steph
Yep.
Curry is the greatest shooter of the basketball of all time. And
Hmm.
comparing Lillard to Steph Curry, like I said, not a fair comparison.
No.
Lillard is a great basketball player, but there is no way in hell that he is a better shooter of the basketball than Steph Curry.
No, not a chance. I mean, it's like you said, it's like saying that, oh, like, just to give an example of, like, I'm a Bengals fan. Joe Burrow. I mean, Joe Burrow's really good, but he's not as good as Tom Brady. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty self-explanatory. Like, yeah, like Joel Embiid's also not as good as Kareem, but so it's just it frustrates me that, like, Damian Lillard gets a bad rep because we're comparing him to the greatest shooter in the history of basketball. And it's like, well, that's not fair. I mean, that's like it's like you said, it's like comparing how I call a basketball game to how Mike Breen calls a basketball game. Like, yeah, I mean, I feel like I do a decent job for Wright State University in Fairborn, Ohio, but you don't see me on ESPN and ABC every single weekend calling the NBA finals because we're on different levels.
Right. Yeah. So the comparisons to Steph Curry with Lillard need to stop. Again, if you compare Lillard to Steph Curry, I don't want to see you on Twitter doing it. I don't want to see you go on some sports show. You're not coming on this show if you do that, first of all. I don't want to see you on some sports show, and sure, you can go on Twitter and get a bunch of likes, and nobody likes you for that. But yeah, I mean, they're not fair comparisons. Lillard is one of the greatest players in the NBA right now,
Mhm.
and he is the greatest player in Portland history. So
I'm glad you brought that up because I was just about to ask. When it's all said and done, who's the best Trailblazer of all time? Is it Lillard or is it Clyde Drexler?
it's going to be Lillard. It's got to be Lillard. And he's still going to, right now, I think it's Lillard. And he's still got plenty of career
Yeah,
left.
he's at
So,
32, 31. I gotta double check that, but yeah,
um,
he's still got plenty of career ahead of him for sure.
right, right. And uh,
Same
sitting
as
here,
30.
yeah, sitting here saying that, I mean, yeah, Lillard is one of the best in the NBA right now. When it's all said and done, he will be the best trailblazer in all of franchise history. So, and he single-handedly led them to the win there in Denver.
Yeah, no doubt about it. All right, we got about 20 minutes left here in hour number one. Let's get into the games from Sunday. Let's start with the Sixers and the Wizards. The Sixers able to win it 125, 118 over the Washington Wizards. And I tweeted out, I don't know if you saw it, Parker. I know you were kind of busy on Sunday, but this did not feel like a 1-8 game to me. This felt like more of like a 3-6 game because I think the Wizards are good enough to beat Philly. I do. Uh, the only problem was Washington made way too many turnovers, made way too many careless mistakes in the fourth quarter. It allowed Philly to build up a 7 to 9 point lead, and then Joel Embiid was able to close it out. So this Washington team, though, I'm impressed with how they're playing right now. Bradley Beal, 33 points, 10 rebounds. Westbrook had 16 points, 14 assists. He also played 42 minutes. Roy Hachimura was really good with 12 points as well. Alex Len with 12. Gafford had 12 points, 6 rebounds, and a block. Bertans had 14 points. 6 points for Robin Lopez. He's even playing valuable minutes at this point. Take what you want from game one. I know they made a lot of mistakes down the stretch. That's why they're the 8th seed, not the 1 seed. But this Washington team made Philly sweat, and this Washington team, I really think, could make this a very, very competitive series. They already did in game one, but I don't think this is your typical 1-8 like pushover series. I think that Washington's really got a shot to give Philly everything they can handle.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt about it. As good as Philadelphia is, and I think they will win this series. But I would not be surprised to see Washington push this series to 5 to 6 to maybe even 7. With how good Bradley Beal played the other night, put up 33 points. It was just played fantastically. Really, but unfortunately, Beal was really the only one that played great in that game. Westbrook had an okay game. He had 16 on 7 for 17 shooting.
Mm-hmm.
But You know, this Washington team is a team that came out and just they can go on scoring onslaughts. There's nights where they look like the best team in basketball, and there's nights where they struggle a bit. And that's something that the 76ers have tried to kind of just reduce. I mean, that's what we talked about. The team that makes the fewest mistakes wins the game. And that's true in any sport that you're playing at any level. So, and give credit where credit's due. The Philadelphia, Tobias Harris had 37 on 15 for 29 shooting. Joel Embiid had 30. Seth Curry had 15. George Hill had 11. So, Danny Green had 11. So,
Mhm.
I mean, Philadelphia played fantastically, but this is a Washington team that's not a pushover team. They can come out and win on any given night, and I think they will do that here in game 2, game 3, and they're going to make a series of it.
Yeah, and I agree. I think the biggest difference between these two teams, there's two of them. I think the coaching matchup's pretty decently in Philly's favor with Doc Rivers. I take Doc Rivers over Scott Brooks 10 times out of 10. Um, and then the depth. I think Washington's got a starting five that can compete with Philly's starting five. I mean, just looking at Washington's starting five, you have Russell Westbrook, Raul Neto, Bradley Beal, Rui Hachimura, Alex Len. You have three really solid scorers there. Alex Len's a good interior defender, and Raul Neto. I mean, he's been able to knock down some shots this year, so that's a good starting five for the Wizards going up against, of course, Simmons, Curry, Harris, Green, and Embiid, which is one of the better starting fives in the league. But you look at the benches. The Wizards tend to favor Gafford, Bertans, Smith, and Lopez, which is not a bad bench. It's not bad, but Philly's just got so much depth with George Hill, Matisse Thybulle, one of the best defenders in the NBA. You also have Dwight Howard, who had a great game today. George Hill, Shake Milton, Furkan Korkmaz, another really good shooter. Tyrese Maxey, Anthony Tolliver, Mike Scott. I mean, there's so many solid bench players, role players on this Philadelphia roster. I think eventually it's gonna turn into Beal and Westbrook try to beat 7 or 8 guys, and that's when I think Washington's gonna kind of run out of time.
Yeah, yeah. As good as Washington is, I mean, they have one of the best benches in all of the NBA. They have Ish Smith, they have Robin Lopez, Daniel Gafford, like you said, Hachimura. I mean, Raul Neto. I mean, this Washington team is a team, like I said, not a pushover team. But like you said, it's going to come down to Beal and Westbrook trying to beat Embiid and Harris and George Hill and Dwight Howard and I mean, just go down the list, and they're not going to be able to do it. I think so. I think Washington makes a series of it, but I think Philadelphia wins this one in 6 or 7.
I agree. I think Philly in 6, I think, is a pretty safe bet. But I will throw out last thing here in this game. I mean, Tobias Harris had 28 points in the first half, which is insane. But Embiid ended up with 30 points as well. Ben Simmons had 15 rebounds, 15 assists, only 6 points. But Ben Simmons, I mean, you can dog his shooting all you want. I do a lot. It makes me mad that Ben Simmons can't shoot the ball because if he could, he'd literally be the closest thing we have in the NBA to LeBron. But he's a playmaker, and there's no doubt about that. He's one of the best defenders in the league, and he knows how to run that Philly offense. And Doc Rivers puts a lot of trust in Ben Simmons, and today he rewarded him 15 points, 15 rebounds, and exceptional defense on Bradley Beal.
Yeah, yeah, and like I said earlier, defensive basketball is what wins games. And even though Bradley Beal had 33,
He had to
um,
work for it.
he had he I mean, as good as Beal is, those were points that he worked for, like you said. I mean, he had to earn those points because the defense was very tough. And if there was no defense, imagine what he could have put up. He put up 33 against tough defense. He could have had 50 or 60. Who knows? So, yeah, I mean, Beal played fantastically. He was really one of the only ones who played fantastically for Scott Brooks. But I mean, it's no surprise to me that Philadelphia won Game 1, and I think they will. I mean, they won Game 1 at home in Philadelphia, so and that's what sports is. The home team should win the game. And that's what they did. So congratulations to Doc and company in Philly. And I see no reason why that they should not win this series.
Yeah, I agree. I think that this Philly team is in a really good position to continue into the second round. And really, I think Philly's got to be favored to get to the Eastern Conference Finals because we'll get into Knicks and Hawks in a second. And that was a really, really good game. But I think both the Knicks and the Hawks are too inexperienced to get through that Philly team. Whoever comes out of that series, I don't think can get through Philly. So I really think, barring something really, really surprising happening, like Milwaukee or Miami knocking off Brooklyn, I mean, I'm already kind of preparing myself for Philadelphia versus Brooklyn in the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah, yeah, I think so too. I mean, it's a very real possibility that that is the Eastern Conference Finals matchup. I think Brooklyn will win that matchup
I agree.
if they get to that point. But you know, it's a possibility that neither of those teams make the Eastern Conference Finals. That's why basketball is so much fun to watch.
Yeah,
I mean, the teams that aren't supposed to win do win sometimes,
for sure.
and that's exactly what we saw with the Miami Heat. That team was not supposed to make the NBA
No,
Finals,
not at
and
all.
they did. And that's something that's what we've seen with Phoenix this year. They were not supposed to be a 1 seed, and they're the 1 seed. So
But I get what you're saying.
2 seed. Yeah, that's right. That's right. And they're the underdogs in that series. And I mean, I know we'll get to them in a second, but they played great, and as well as Philadelphia. So I'm with you. I think Philly and Brooklyn is an Eastern Conference Finals that I think we're going to get to see here coming up here in a few weeks. So I'm excited for that.
I'd love to apply for our YouTube feed. I'd love to applaud you again. Your transition game getting better and better by the day. What a move to go from Philly to Phoenix. Well done. I'm impressed. Philadelphia, or we move on from Philadelphia. Phoenix defeats the Los Angeles Lakers. Probably the biggest story of the weekend. Suns over the Lakers, 99-90 on Sunday. And the big thing that I take away from this game, Phoenix played really, really, really well. But the one thing that kind of sits with me is, after this game's over, is Chris Paul okay? He fell pretty hard on his shoulder. He left the game at 2 separate points. If he can play, this Phoenix team can knock off the Lakers. They showed it today. If Chris Paul can't go because that shoulder's bugging him, unfortunately, I think it gives the Lakers the series.
Yeah, yeah, and the Lakers are widely regarded as one of the most talented teams in basketball. And that's certainly very true. LeBron, I mean, anytime you have a LeBron, you have a chance to win the finals. It's just the way it is. It's like
Mm-hmm.
having Tom Brady on your team. So I mean, LeBron had 18 in this game. AD had 13. Andre Drummond had 12.
And
Dennis Schroeder,
really
Dennis,
quick, how about the Phoenix defense holding LeBron and Anthony Davis to 31 points combined? I mean, that's
yeah,
standing.
yeah, unbelievable. I mean, Drummond had 12. Schroeder had 14. Montrezl Harrell had 12. Alex Caruso had 10. And they held a Lakers team that is widely regarded as one of the best in the NBA to 90 points. And holding a team to 90 points is unheard of in today's game. So
Yeah,
credit where credit's due. I love Monty Williams. He's the coach of the year. Um,
without a doubt.
and he has just turned this Phoenix team around.
Mhm.
And they're the 2 seed in this series. They're the higher seed, even though the Lakers are favored in this series. Would not surprise me at all if hopefully he's okay. But if Chris Paul can come back and with Devin Booker playing as well as he did in Game 1, he put up 34. And if Chris Paul can come back and light it up just like Booker did. I mean, if the Lakers fall in the first round, that would be a heck of a story, especially to a Phoenix team that a lot of people wrote off.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Ourselves included. I mean, Phoenix had a heck of a year, but we said it's not fair. I mean, you have your best year in a decade, and you draw the 7 seed Lakers, and we thought it was really just a matter of time before the Lakers knocked off this Phoenix Suns team. But the way the Suns played today, like I said, if Chris Paul is okay, um, this Suns team is very, very good, and we knew that going in, but we didn't. I don't think we fully understood that they are good enough to beat this Lakers team. The Lakers held to 43% from the field today. Just unbelievable effort by the Phoenix Suns. They out rebound the Los Angeles Lakers as well in this game. And it was just outstanding. Like I said, Mikal Bridges with 10 points, DeAndre Ayton 21 and 16, 34 for Devin Booker. Chris Paul only had 7 points and 8 assists, but Chris Paul, it's not exactly what he does in the stat sheet. It's what he brings to the court in terms of leadership and in terms of comfort and in terms of just that stabling presence that Chris Paul brings. It's second to none in the NBA, maybe only to LeBron. But it was just a great game. Cameron Johnson with 10 points off the bench. Dario Saric even got involved a little bit in 11 minutes off the bench. This Suns team just played a complete game of basketball. And like you said, credit to Monty Williams. If Booker can score like that, Chris Paul runs that offense and they don't make that many mistakes, that Suns roster as a whole, I should say, is athletic enough, is hungry enough, and is talented enough to knock off the Lakers.
Yeah, they played great today. I know we keep saying today because we're recording this on Sunday night.
We are recording this on Sunday night. Yeah.
But so our terminology is a little bit off, so we apologize for that. But yeah, I mean, credit where credit's due. Monty Williams has taken this team to the 2 seed in the West, a team that a lot of people, like we said, a lot of people wrote off. A lot of people's that not expecting them to win. And I think that's what's fueling this team. There's a lot of people saying this Phoenix team is not supposed to win. And I guarantee you Monty Williams is in that locker room saying, hey, everybody's writing us off. Let's go out there and let's go show these people who we are, how good we can be, and let's beat a Lakers team that's coming off an NBA championship.
Yeah, and that's what I think that's the coolest part of it for me. I'm a big LeBron fan, so I mean I don't want LeBron to lose. I have no problem if LeBron wins here because I love LeBron, but I always, I'm a sucker for the hungry uprising underdogs, and that's what the Phoenix Suns are in this case. It's crazy that we're saying that about a 2 seed, but they have the depth, they have the leadership in Chris Paul, they have the youth in Booker and Cameron Johnson and DeAndre Ayton and Mikal Bridges. They have the athleticism. They have the talent. They have the defense. I mean, this team didn't accidentally win 50-plus games. They did it because they're talented, and they showed today that even though the entirety of the NBA fans around the world just said, oh, you're just going to get your butts kicked by LeBron, that might not be the case.
No, not at all. And that's I have never, not once in my life, rooted for a team in Arizona. But this Phoenix team is making they're fun to watch, and they're a great story, and I love it. So, yeah, hopefully we see them continue to do well. And if they beat the defending champs in the round 1 of the NBA playoffs, Phoenix is gonna blow up, man.
When I talked about Dallas, I talked about the Clippers, I've talked about the Lakers, and those are like the 3 teams that we think are the favorites to get to the finals, maybe. If Phoenix knocks off the Lakers, I mean, if Phoenix can beat the Lakers, they can beat the Nuggets or the Blazers, in my opinion. Maybe Phoenix emerges as the favorite to get to the finals out of the West.
Yeah, it's very possible. It's very possible we could see, I'm blanking right now. But it's very possible we could see a Utah and a Phoenix Western Conference Finals. Unbelievable.
Insane.
It's also, I mean, with how good Dallas is, we could see a Dallas Phoenix. We could see a Lakers Phoenix. We could see a Lakers Utah. We could see
how fun would Lakers Mavericks be? AD versus Porzingis and Luka versus LeBron.
Yeah.
Oh my!
I mean, we could see a Denver Utah Eastern or Western Conference Finals matchup of the Rocky Mountains, if you will.
Man.
I mean, matchups of, you go out to Utah, matchup of no man's land out there in Utah.
Have a Memphis, and we'll get into this in a second. This game just went to halftime, but we could have a Memphis Phoenix Western Conference Finals.
Right, unbelievable, and an 8 seed getting to the conference finals would be, it's unheard of.
Yeah,
it's like a third.
I don't think Memphis is your typical 8 seed, though. I think that team is very talented. They're just very young. And the West is obviously such a dog heat every single year.
It's like we say, all these teams, like none of these are a 1-8 or a 2-7 or a
No,
3-6. Most of these matchups are 4-5s.
pretty much.
Very, very similar teams, very similar talent wise. They're very closely matched.
Yeah, no doubt about it. All right, let's move on to the Hawks and the Knicks. I was really excited for the series, and it delivered. Game one in the Garden was really fun. Hawks win it 107-105 on a buzzer beater. Well, not a buzzer beater, but a game winner by Trae Young with .9 to go. Trae Young ends his first ever playoff game with 32 points, 7 rebounds, 10 assists, only 2 turnovers. What a game from Trae Young. Bogdanovich had 18. John Collins had 12, 13 for Lou Williams. DeAndre Hunter hit a big 3 late in that game as well. Julius Randle struggled a little bit for the Knicks. Only had 15 points, but 12 rebounds and 4 assists. He had a big shot late in that game. But how good was Alec Burks? 27 off the bench, 9 of 13 shooting to go along with 3 rebounds and 4 assists. Quickly had 10. Derrick Rose had 17. RJ Barrett had 14. And Dayton's own Obi Toppin also contributed 5 points, a rebound, and an assist as well. This was a great game between two very evenly matched teams, and it sucks that one of them had to lose. But credit to the Hawks. I thought the Knicks were going to eventually prevail because of stronger defense and stronger coaching, but the Hawks showed up today, and they looked like a really good team. I think this series could very well go 7 as well. But Hawks-Knicks, I'm definitely going to be glued to game 2 of that as well.
Yeah, as am I. Both of these 4-5 matchups in their respective conferences are fantastic. You got Knicks, Atlanta
And they're totally
in the
different.
East,
And they're
and you
totally
got right, and you got Clippers, Dallas in the West.
right. And Clippers Dallas is all-star power. Luka and Kristaps, Porzingis and Kawhi. Knicks and Hawks, I mean, there's star power there, but it's like the upstarting, the group of really young up-and-coming teams, and it's really fun. Who would have thought that the Hawks and the Knicks would make the playoffs, let alone be the 4 and the 5 seed? And they delivered one of the better games of the weekend.
Yeah, they do. And like you said, it sucks that one of those teams had to lose because I mean both teams just played their tails off. Alec Burks, unbelievable. Put up 27 in only 26 minutes played. I mean and I mean they have uh I mean you take a look at the Knicks and they're not a team that you should write off because they have bench depth. They have Obi Toppin. They have Emmanuel Quickly. They have Frank Ntilikina. They got Taj Gibson. Alec Burks put up 27 tonight. Derrick Rose played great as well. He had 17 along with Randall. Put up 15 tonight. 15 and 12 had double doubles. So this Knicks team is not a team to write off whatsoever. They lose a heartbreaker here tonight, but I wouldn't be surprised to see him come out in the next game and play well.
Yeah, and this is a Knicks team that's only going to get better because they've cleared up a max free agent slot for free agency. So maybe they go out and get a Victor Oladipo. Maybe they go out and they get I mean, I don't know what other direction they could go. Maybe they go get a Chris Paul. Maybe they go get, I don't know. Maybe they find a way to get a Russell Westbrook or something like that. But this Knicks team could very well be better than they are right now next year. And I mean, I think Julius Randle's been outstanding this year, but I still think he's a number 2 star in the NBA. I don't think he's ever going to be a number 1 star. If you can give him a guy like a Westbrook or a Chris Paul I mean, maybe him and Oladipo are both 2 stars, but just giving him a second all-star caliber player, I think it makes the Knicks a top 3 team in the East.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Like you said, Julius Randle has never been the set in stone star for any team in his career. He was with the Lakers for a while. Now he's in New York and he's doing great things with the Knicks. But if he can play this well by himself, well, I won't say by himself, but
with a very young and inexperienced team,
right? If he can play this well, imagine what he can do just playing as kind of a like a Robin to somebody's
right?
Batman in New York, and is that Russell Westbrook? Is that Victor Oladipo? Is that Chris Paul? Nobody knows. And with how good Randall has been this year, being the Robin to somebody's Batman, I think is a scenario in which he will thrive.
Yeah, and I mean, you mentioned, I mean, he's really emerged this year as a all-star caliber player. But giving him that second weapon, I mean, we've seen what that's done to players. We've seen how good John Wall was when he got Bradley Beal. We've seen how good LeBron was when he got Kyrie Irving. We've seen how good Curry was when he got Klay Thompson. We've seen how good Durant was when he got Westbrook. So, Harden with Westbrook. I mean, Harden with Chris Paul. I mean, there's so many good duos, dynamic duos, Luka and Kristaps now. But if the Knicks can get that second star, I think it makes them a really, really good team. They're already a good team. And I think that Knicks fans will revolt if they don't re-sign Derrick Rose. So I think the front office is already preparing to give Derrick Rose a nice contract as well.
Yeah, yeah, and quite frankly, he deserves it. You could argue that
100% deserves it.
You could argue that Derrick Rose is that Batman in New York right now, and I would probably agree with you. At least right now, he is that Batman to Randall, or he is that Batman for Randall's Robin right now in New York. But I mean, just adding that third piece, you need a lot of teams have had just unbelievable, threesomes in NBA history. You look at, I mean, the Chicago Bulls. You got Jordan, Pippen, and Rodman. I mean, even more recently in the Bay Area, you got Curry, you got Thompson, you got Draymond Green.
Yeah, and then
Those,
with Allen, Pierce, and Garnett.
yeah, exactly. So the Knicks are a great team right now. Everybody writ them off. They're like the Suns. Everybody writ them off, but they're here and they're fighting, and they played a heck of a game one.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And so, like I said, excited for game 2 of that series. The final game, unfortunately, is not over at the time that we're recording this, but it is 49-43 Grizzlies at the half, leading the Utah Jazz. The Jazz are playing without Donovan Mitchell, and that concerns me a little bit, obviously, because Mitchell's a star. And playing without him, I think they're more of a 4 or 5 seed without Donovan Mitchell than a 1 seed. But Memphis, like I said, is not your typical 8 seed. Ja Morant is an absolute stud. Jonas Valanciunas, Jaren Jackson Jr., Dylan Brooks. This team's not messing around. They knocked out the Warriors. They knocked out the Spurs. I don't know if they knock out the Jazz, but they're going to push the Jazz to the brink, and they're showing it in game 1.
Yeah, yeah, they are. I mean, and like you said, right now when you're recording this, Grizzlies are up by 6 at halftime. They're in Salt Lake City, and the Jazz are a great team. I mean, they don't have Mitchell right now, but they're still a 1 seed. They're still
Yeah,
talented. And like you said, not your typical 8 seed, and they're in Memphis with Ja Morant as well as oh, I'm gonna forget their names there. Who's all there in Memphis? But
they're good. They're all still
um,
young.
yeah, and just the talent that they have there in both these teams.
Yeah,
And like I said, like we said earlier, this is not a typical 1-8. This is a 3-6. This is a 4-5.
exactly.
Both these teams are very closely matched. They both have talent in their respective areas,
Yeah.
and they both have a chance to win this series.
And they both play through a star guard. I mean, they're very similarly built, and we talked about this last week. I think Memphis is very similar to Utah. Utah just has more experience on their roster, and I think that's why they're the better team. But Memphis could very well be the next Utah Jazz, just like we talked about Denver earlier. I think Denver could be the next Golden State Warriors. I think that Dallas could be the next. It's the second. It's an upcoming new wave of NBA talent. We just talked about the Knicks and the Hawks. Maybe the Knicks and the Hawks are the next Celtics and the Bucks. Who knows? So it's exciting to talk about. But that Jazz Grizzlies score is something we'll definitely keep an eye on as we go through hour number 2. But we're going to step away for a little bit. We have to hit our legal ID before Patrick hurts me. But back, still plenty more to talk about when we come back. We're going to talk about the Raider gang going into the tournament red hot. We're also going to talk about how bad the Cincinnati Reds are because I got to get that out. And then, of course, as well, thank you to one of our listeners on Facebook, and we'll give him a shout out when we introduce the topic. But we're going to do the best stadiums in sports, and I'm excited for this one. I'm going to be a little biased on some of them, but I think I'm going to have a similar opinion to a lot of people on a lot of them as well. So hour number 2 of Keep It Real is coming up next. Don't go anywhere. Make sure you keep it locked. We'll be right back. Back here, it's Keep It Real with Testa and Neal. How are all of you? Happy hour number 2. You'll be listening to this and watching this on Monday. We're actually recording this on Sunday night. But you got to do what you got to do to make a daily sports show work. So we're doing what we got to do.
Yes, we are. We both have busy schedules, but we wanted to do a daily show, and that comes with challenges in itself. So it may be 11 o'clock on a Sunday night, but we're rolling and we're having fun.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I mean, we have still a lot to get into here in hour number 2. We have the Raider gang. I mean, that's what we're going to open up with here in hour number 2. The Raider gang have been playing so well. Oh my goodness. How good are they?
Um, they're pretty damn good.
Yeah, can't complain. They sit now at the end of the year 32-11. They finished conference season 28-4. They go 18-1 at Nishwitz this year, Parker. That's stupid.
It's to have one loss at home is just, I mean, fantastic. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Coach Sogard and company are just the best at what they do in the conference. Clearly, because they won 32 games out of 40 or however many it was. They played 43. I think it was when it was all said and done. So
Yeah.
they won 32. 32-11 overall, like you said, Shay. That's a 74% winning percentage. In overall, 28-4 in the conference, 87% winning percentage in the conference, 18-1 at home, 13-8 away, and 1-2 at neutral sites. And it's just unbelievable. They started 0-5 after
Yeah.
a few tough games in Nashville against Vandy, the number 2 team in the country, and then they go down to Tuscaloosa and play Alabama, who's another ranked team in the standings
Yeah.
for the top 25, and then they come out after that and they're 32-6 after starting 0-5. So
I'm glad,
unbelievable.
and I'm glad you brought that up because I was just about to bring up the same thing. They started the year 0-5 and 0-5 on the road. So they end the year going 32-6, as well as going 13-3 away from home. Do you know how hard it is to win on the road, Parker? I mean, it starts in middle school and it continues all the way up to the major leagues. It is not easy to win away from home. And the fact that they did it so well this year, I mean, obviously they were dominant at home, but those road numbers are really, eye catching too. Going 13-3 away from home after that first week of the season. Unbelievable job by Coach Sogard, Coach Metzger. This team is really, really good. And I'm glad I hopped on the bandwagon early because now they could get to super regional take as a hot one, and I can be one of the first people that said that I had that opinion.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And it's just they're just good. They're just good. I have no other words than they're good, and
They're
they
really
are.
good.
And so they will host the Horizon League tournament at the Niche next weekend. Games starting on Thursday, May 27th. Will be on all the games will be on ESPN3 and ESPN Plus. So unfortunately, I will not be there, but I will be watching and
Yeah.
supporting the Raider gang, of course. They will take on number 4 Milwaukee as the 1 seed. That game will be on Thursday, May 27th. This coming Thursday at 11 a.m.
Is the
And
bracket
then
out?
yes, it is.
Oh,
Yes, it is.
who are we playing?
We are playing Milwaukee
Oh,
in the opening. Um,
well,
in the opening.
here's the
Hold on
interesting thing.
here.
Open. They call it the opening round. It looks like
I'm trying to pull up the
Milwaukee's the
actual.
4 seed, I guess. Are we just doing semis and then championship? Is that how this works? I don't know how this works.
I'm trying to figure out how to zoom in. I feel like an old person right now, but there
Me
we
when I
go.
me when I use the GM computer every day.
They make the words so small in these brackets,
Yeah.
but they will play Milwaukee on Thursday at 11 a.m. and
Is that a
then
semifinal game? Because it looks like Milwaukee's the 4 seed.
they are the 4 seed.
So we're just doing semis and championship.
How do I make it go over? There we go. Okay. Um, so they have like it almost looks like there's a winner's bracket and a loser's bracket.
So there's like a
Yeah.
third place game.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Games 1 to 3, Thursday, May 27th at Wright State. The whole tournament will be at Wright State at Nischwitz Stadium. Wright State plays Milwaukee. 1 play the 4. Game 1, 11 a.m. on Thursday. Youngstown, the 3 seed, will play UIC at 3 o'clock at the Niche the same day,
Uh-huh.
May 27th. The loser of game 1 will play
The winner of game two.
the loser of game 1 will play the loser of game
Oh,
2.
and then the winner of both games, that'll be the championship?
Okay. How is this?
Or the double elimination?
This is very confusing.
This is really weird. Is
So
it double
right
elimination?
so if Wright State wins, they will move on to game 4 on Thursday or on Friday.
Okay.
And the winner of the 2-3 game will play Wright State the next day at 12 o'clock. The both losers of games 1 and 2 will play each other in a third game at 7 p.m. And the loser of
Is out.
the loser of game 4 the next day.
Okay.
So that's the loser of the
The two winners.
the loser of the 2 winners will face the winner of the 2 losers the previous day. So
And then the winner of that game plays the team that hasn't lost yet in the championship.
right.
Okay. So it's just double elimination.
So we spent way too long explaining this, but
it's just double elimination. Each team gets 2 losses before they're out.
Right.
So Wright State versus Milwaukee. If Wright State should win that game, but in case Wright State loses, they'd have to win 2 games in a row to get to the Horizon League title.
Yes.
Okay. That makes sense. I think we just summed it up way easier there.
Right.
What's interesting, though, is Milwaukee is the one team that beat Wright State at Nischwitz this year. I mean, they beat them 11-6, and then Wright State came back the next day and won 24-2 and then 20-5. But Milwaukee is the one team that can say they beat Wright State in their home stadium. So that won't be a pushover game. But with Schrand on the mound and with the offensive talent that Wright State has, I mean, I think Wright State should be heavy favorites.
They should, and I see no reason why they should not win this game, especially after the offensive output they've put in, really all season long. The only times that their offense was shut down was those first 5 games.
Yeah,
and since then they've just had a scoring onslaught. So, the Raider gang is it's just a yet another talented program, and there's a possibility we could have 4 Horizon, or right now we have 4 teams that won the Horizon League regular season this year. Unbelievable. What's going on here at Wright State? And all the credits got to go to BG. He's put together just an unbelievable department and home run hire with
a restricted budget as well. You got to throw that in. I mean, he's had his budget pulled back.
Yeah. So home run hires everywhere across the board. Of course, we're on a will see basis, of course, with Coach Hoffman. But from everything we're hearing, from BG and everybody with the athletic department, they think they've hit a home run with this hire.
And exactly. And BG sounds as confident with Coach Hoffman as he did with Coach Matters and with Coach Sogard and with Coach Nagy. So if he sees in her what he saw in those 3, I mean, those 3 are doing some pretty big things. So
sure, no doubt about it. And I mean, the Raider gang they've been one of the best teams in the country as far as baseball goes.
I'm kind of insulted that they're not getting that they're not ranked.
Right. Yeah. It's and I'm sure they are too. If you're insulted,
they've gone 32-6 the last month and a half.
Right. So they're going to come out and they're going to want to win every single game they play. They're going to want to win every single game. They will not lose. I don't think this is a hot take. they will not lose. They will win the Horizon League championship. They
I
are
agree.
going. I have no doubt in my mind that they're going to win the Horizon League championship.
I 100% agree, and I'll take it to the next level. I don't think they lose in regionals.
Okay.
I
All
think they
right.
get through. I think they get to supers this year, and depending on who they draw in supers, this team is talented enough. Maybe they find their way to Omaha. I don't know.
How cool would that
What
be?
if they run into Vandy again in the College World Series?
Oh, that would be
What a matchup!
unbelievable. I
I
will go to
I
Omaha
think
for that.
personally, and I mean, this is going to sound biased as hell, and I get that. I think Wright State's pitching staff is good enough to slow down Vanderbilt's offense. I'm scared that Vanderbilt's pitching
Ooh,
staff will not let Wright State's offense score.
wow. That's bold. I thought I was bold,
I'm
but
just
that's
saying.
bold.
I'm just saying. I think our pitchers can slow down Vandy. I don't know if our
Right.
hitters can score on Rocker and Leiter.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
They're a team that has that they have the presumptive 1 and 2 picks in the MLB draft, going up against a Wright State offense that's scored at
It's the best
will
in the country.
since those first 5 games. So
And now
um,
that's a matchup that would like be instant TV for anyone, any fan of baseball. The two best pitchers in the country right now, Rocker and Leiter, against the number one offense in the country in Wright State. Like
yeah,
that's superpower meets superpower. That's like Thanos versus Thor. Like this is big time right here.
yeah, for sure.
And Strand, Bremer, and Klein ain't pushovers either. I mean, Wright State's got a dynamite pitching staff.
They do, and they're like we said, they're the best offensive team in the country. Have a great pitching staff, and that's a credit to this entire staff. I mean, and four staff members of this Wright State coaching staff are former Raiders: Jason Foster, Chase Sloan, Zach Weatherford, and Derek Hendrickson. And I know Foster and Hendrickson work with the pitchers as well as Coach Sogard. So this coaching staff is I put them up with some of
Dynamite.
the best in the country,
Mm.
and they're just unbelievable, and they deserve it. They're one of the best teams in the country, and they're going to win the Horizon League championship.
Yeah.
And come at me on Twitter if you want to. If they don't,
Well,
fine.
it's not
Go
even an
ahead.
audible. That's not even an audible take. I mean,
Right.
it's a fact almost.
Right. And if you come at me when they lose or if they
You're
lose,
that one Milwaukee baseball fan, like okay, come at us. But
yeah, come at us
Milwaukee's
if you want
best
to.
pitcher
But
comes at us and he's like, "Hey man, we're gonna beat Wright State." Yeah, okay, buddy. Sleep
yeah,
well.
yeah,
See you on Thursday.
yeah. And you ain't gonna sleep at all tonight. You're gonna come out and get rocked tomorrow. So
Quincy Hamilton's gonna hit one out to 675 off you in the first inning.
right, right. Somebody is gonna send their car bill to BG because Quincy Hamilton hit their car driving out there on 675.
Sammy
So
Sass has got 3 more bombs in him in the Horizon League tournament.
yeah, I mean, there's nothing else. I mean, it's just nothing but great things we can say about the Raider gang and the athletic department that supports them. So
Yeah,
we're excited to watch some Horizon League baseball
no
coming
doubt
up this
about it.
weekend.
Yeah, and no doubt about it. And like I was excited. Obviously, I was very excited for the volleyball NCAA tournament. I was very excited for the basketball NCAA tournament, and those were unbelievable historical moments in Wright State history. But you and I, baseball is our favorite sport. I've been on this bandwagon since the beginning of the year, and I'm excited to keep riding it. This team is really, really good. I mean, maybe a top 25 team in the country, and hopefully we ride this wave to supers, and maybe hey, weird stuff happens all the time in college tournaments. Maybe this team finds a way to get to Omaha. I don't know.
Oh, I mean,
Right?
I know.
I mean, the basketball team beating Arkansas is insane. The volleyball team beating Samford's insane. But if Wright State baseball makes it to Omaha, that might be the story of the year.
I think it would be, and that's not to discredit anything that Coach Trina and our women's basketball team did this season. It's not to discredit anything that Coach Matters and our volleyball team did this season, but to make the College World Series from a
Oh,
mid-major school in the Horizon League,
Fairborn, Ohio? Are you kidding me?
unbelievable. I will make the trip to Omaha
I'll
if
I'll buy a plane ticket to Omaha. Are you kidding me?
I mean, it's unbelievable. So, Uh, right. And so, I mean, baseball is just a lot of fun to watch. I think this Horizon League tournament is going to be a lot of fun. Let's stay in the present. Let's not get
Yeah,
ahead of
no doubt
ourselves.
about it.
But this is going to be a fun weekend coming up, and I'm excited to watch some Horizon League baseball.
No doubt about it. And I mean, that's the first, the checklist, if you will. It starts with this weekend in the Horizon League tournament. Just take it one game at a time. Take care of Milwaukee, who's a team that's proven that they can hang with this team when they're playing at their best. So make sure that they don't play at their best. Jake Strand's been great all year. They need him to be great a couple more times this season, and I think he'll deliver. And this offense, like I said, 1 through 9 can beat you, and that's terrifying. I mean, we talk about Black, we talk about Hamilton, we talk about Alders, we talk about Dews, we talk about Sammy Sass, what a game he's had, or what a year he's had. Piotto, I mean, Zane Harris. I mean, this team is disgusting on offense. They're the number one offense in the country for a reason. They have 9, 10 guys that can beat you in any at bat.
Right, right. And that's scary if you're an opposing pitcher. And I know we've talked about how good their offense is because it's just that good. They're the number one offense in the country for a reason, and they have the talent, they have the power. To I mean, Sammy Sass had 3 home runs this weekend. I mean, it's
Today,
unbelievable.
he hit 3 home runs today.
Yeah, yeah. So, it's just, it's unbelievable. The offensive talent of this team, uh, they're almost like an NBA team right now. The goal is just to outscore everybody else, and you win.
They're the Brooklyn
So
Nets of the Horizon League. There you go.
it's right. So, yeah, I'm excited to watch Horizon League baseball this weekend, and hopefully we see Red State make it to Supers or maybe even the CWS.
Yeah, no doubt about it. uh, So that's we'll get back into the Raider gang a little later on in the week when the Horizon League tournament kicks off. Let's talk a little bit about MLB before we move into our final segment of the show today, which is our favorite stadiums across sports, which I'm really excited about. That's a great topic idea. But some scores around baseball today. The Nationals beat the Orioles 6-5. Nationals starting to climb up to 500 a little bit now, sit 20-23. The Red Sox fall to the Phillies 6-2. Phillies now 23-24. The Sox back to 29-19. Yankees beat the White Sox 5-4. Yankees are really starting to pick up steam. They're now only a half game out of first in the AL East, so they're starting to really pick it up, which we knew it was going to happen. But that's a thing. The Rays now have won their 10th straight game over the. They beat the Blue Jays 6-4. And then you also have the Twins beating the Indians in extras. The Marlins beating the Mets 5-1. Brewers beat the Reds 9-4. I'll get to the Reds in a minute. They do not get to escape the wrath of me today. But oh my god, the Reds are terrible. The Braves beat the Pirates 7-1. Exactly what Atlanta needed. A series against the Pirates. It looks like they're back to being the Braves world beaters that we're used to seeing just because they got to beat up on the Pirates for 3 days in a row. The Royals beat the Tigers 3-2. The Rangers beat the Astros 3-2. The Rockies walk off on the Diamondbacks 4-3. Trevor Story hits a walk-off bomb. Dodgers had a nice weekend against the Giants, Parker. They win again today 11-5. And
They are back, baby. They
Yeah,
are back.
sitting 1 game back of San Diego for first place. Padres and Dodgers might be the 2 hottest teams in the league right now.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it.
Angels beat the A's 6-5. The Padres beat the Mariners 9-2, and the Cubs beat the Cardinals in 10 innings 2-1. Craig Kimbrell has a .95 ERA right now, Parker. I know I give Craig Kimbrell a lot of crap because he's been terrible for a couple of years with the Cubs, but this year he's been rock solid, and he's helping the Cubs win some games.
Yeah, he sure has. He hasn't been that good. He hasn't been very good in recent years, but it's just it's the power of the
Whatever that is, yeah.
whatever this is.
The stork
It's
train.
magical.
Yeah.
It's magical, and that's led him to a .95 ERA this year, which is very unbelievable. So, this Cubs Cardinals game tonight might be the best of the weekend.
Yeah.
With nothing going into extras, Cubs end up winning it 2-1. So,
Good game.
yeah, just a great slate of baseball this weekend.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I mean, like I said, the AL East is really picking up steam. Rays, Yankees, Red Sox, all within a half game of each other now. Dodgers, Padres, Giants, all within 2 games of each other. So I mean, I know we're in late May, and there's still plenty of time for things to happen. But it looks like the AL East and NL West are going to be two divisions that you got to watch start to finish.
That's sports radio, ladies and gentlemen. We get excited about things that
4 months in advance.
season's not even close to getting over yet, and we're getting excited about playoff pushes and where teams are on the wild
Who's
card
going to make moves at the
standings.
deadline in May? Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
right.
that's something we can hit on really quick because I didn't think about that. The Brewers traded for Willie Adames.
They did. They
Yeah, so
did.
they give up a couple relievers. They get Adames. I like that move. I mean, just as a baseball guy, I don't like it as a Reds fan because Adames got like 4 RBIs against us this weekend. But
I know that broke your heart because I know you were pushing for Adames to the
well,
Reds.
if they're trying to go all in for Story, I'll forgive them. But I don't think they are. I like Adames. I think he's a great fit with the Brewers. They definitely need an upgrade from Urias. And then the Rays get a couple relievers, and you know what the Rays do with relievers. So, I mean, I think this is a win-win for both sides, and it allows the Rays to call up Wander Franco. So, I don't think the Rays lose this trade in any way, and I think the Brewers get a really nice upgrade at shortstop. I think Adames is going to emerge as one of their better hitters as the year continues.
Yeah, he will. He's one of the best young shortstops in baseball. He's been great in Tampa, and I expect him to be great in Milwaukee. Milwaukee's one of the teams that I don't have an issue with them. I mean, frankly, I think they have one of the best logos in baseball.
That's
Um,
very true. I like their logo a
yeah.
lot.
So, but
I like
going
their
back,
uniform scheme too. That like
right,
purple and or not really purple, but like that navy blue and then
yeah,
like kind of brighter yellow.
yeah. So, but going back to the Adamas trade, he's going to help Craig Counsell out a lot. And I think it'd be good for Adamas.
Yeah, I agree. I think Adames really has a chance to take that next step and shine in Milwaukee, and I think he'll take advantage of that opportunity, especially with Yelich coming back. Colton Wong's had a good year for the Brewers. Avi Garcia's had a good year for the Brewers. How good has Omar Narvaez been? Lorenzo Cain, Jackie Bradley Jr. It's a good team, and it's a team that, I mean, they still have Keston Hiura. Keston Hiura's had a rough start to the year, but if Keston Hiura gets going, I really think the Brewers can challenge for the NL Central title this year, especially with Woodruff and Burns holding down the rotation. So, and like I said yesterday, I was watching the Reds game, and they lost 5-4, 4-3, or whatever it was. But they lost by a run. And then Hader came out in the ninth inning, and I'm like, well, it's over because Josh Hader's maybe the most shut down guy in baseball. So,
Two Cy Young candidates as well, Burns and Woodruff.
yeah, no doubt about it. Burns has been great. Woodruff's been elite for a couple years now, but he really took that next step from All-Star to Cy Young caliber. And Corbin Burns looks like maybe the next, star of baseball in terms of pitchers.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, he's one of the best in baseball right now, and he's up there with DeGrom, and right now at least. I know DeGrom is great, and another another really not fair comparison
No.
for Burns, but he's playing the same caliber as DeGrom right now as far as the season goes, and him and Woodruff there in Milwaukee, two Cy Young candidates this year.
Yeah. All right. Well, let me get my Reds rant out really quick, just so
Please do. I'll sit back and listen.
I can feel better about myself. This team sucks. Oh my god. Okay. So they go 1-6 on this homestand. That's pathetic. And Nick Castellanos said it in the post-game interview today that it is a quote pathetic. And I agree with him. And I hope Nick Castellanos finds a nice home that he can play for a winning organization because he deserves better than this. Jesse Winker hit 5 home runs over the last 3 games. The Reds won 1 of them. Jesse Winker might win MVP for the worst team in the league. That's saying a lot. Luis Castillo has a 7.94 ERA. The Reds now 1-8 when Luis Castillo pitches a game this year after he gave up 7 runs today. Tyler Mahle has fallen back to earth after a strong start. Wade Miley's hurt. Jeff Hoffman's terrible. And Sonny Gray is not as good as he's been in years past. Let's get to Nick Senzel is hurt. Let's get to Mike Moustakas is hurt. Let's get to Joey Votto broke his thumb. Let's get to Eugenio Suarez is hitting 145. And let's get to the fact that we're playing Kyle Farmer at shortstop every day. We could have gotten Simeon. We could have gotten Didi. We could have gotten Story. We could have gotten Adames. We could have re-signed Jose Iglesias a couple years ago, but no, we're like, no, Kyle Farmer's got it. Kyle Farmer's okay. The guy hits 217. That's good enough for us. this team sucks. And I forgot to mention that other than Lucas Sims and TJ Antone, and Amir Garrett's been okay as of late, this bullpen might be the worst bullpen I've ever seen in my life. I think I could get a group of my semi-athletic friends together and we could beat this Reds team. This team is blasphemous. Thank you. Thank you. I needed that.
Well done.
I needed that. Oh my goodness.
You need
They're horrible.
You need a therapist or something.
I need a therapist in so many different areas of life. I told you a couple weeks ago, you're a Reds and Bengals fan. Could your life get any more miserable? No, because I'm stressed all day at work. I'm in debt as a college student, and I come home and my escape from life is watching the Reds play like dog butt for 3 hours.
It's a fun life, isn't it, Shea?
It's horrifying. Oh, goodness. Oh, I needed that rant. I feel a lot better already.
Okay, so before we get into our final segment, the stadiums, I want to touch on how much of a god that Phil Mickelson is.
Yeah, he's a goat.
This man, 50 years old. He is 50 years old, and he won a major. The oldest player to win a major in PGA history, Phil Mickelson, today at 50 years old, wins the PGA Championship. I mean, it's just unbelievable.
The GOAT.
I mean, I'm a resident golf nerd here at the station, but
I watched a little bit this weekend.
Yeah. But I mean, Phil's just he's just it's just unbelievable, and he's even at 50, he still loves golf. He loves the competition. He's one of the best trash talkers in the game.
Yep.
I mean, and watching that match that they did, like him and Phil and Peyton and Tom Brady did, was I mean, probably it was must-see TV to see two football legends play golf with two golf legends, and just the trash talk that ensued in that, it was just unbelievable. I mean, I saw this from an ESPN article earlier tonight, and it said Mickelson is 50, but he still acts like a kid, and that's one that those are the kind of people that I find myself enjoying the most. The people who are older, but still have the personality that they're 20 years old, and I love that. And that's Phil Mickelson at heart. I mean, he's a lefty, which is fascinating to me. And another thing that's fascinating to me is he's 50 years old and he's still one of the best players in the world. Wins a major this weekend. He's been at the top. He's been in the top 10 for recent tournaments. So, congratulations to Phil. I mean, just unbelievable performance. I mean, the pictures of just the sunglasses and the thumb going up, and it's just unbelievable.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I mean, it's been what a ride for Phil Mickelson going. I mean, you're not supposed to be competing in majors when you're past, the age of 40, 45. And the fact that he did it at 51 is unbelievable. And his second ever PGA championship, but his first in 16 years. So just congratulations to him, like you said. I mean, it seems like there's not many golf fans around the world that dislike Phil Mickelson. He seems like one of the most likable dudes on the circuit. And I'm sure 99% of golf fans are happy that this happened here this weekend.
Yeah. And I'm one of them. He's like I said, became the oldest player to ever win a major. The last major he won was almost 10 years ago. The 2013 Open is the last major that he won. So he's one of the best to ever play golf. I know he's not going to reach Tiger Woods, Jack Nicklaus, Gary Player, caliber of play and caliber of talent, but
Mhm.
he's still just he's the greatest left-handed golfer of all time, in my
No
opinion.
doubt about it.
Um,
Yeah, I
he-
think that's pretty given.
and he's just an unbelievable story this weekend. He played better than anybody else at a tough course there at Kiwa in South Carolina. So, congrats to Phil. I mean,
Mhm.
that's all. That's basically the last 3 minutes of me talking about golf. Just congratulations to a golf legend, and it was great to see him win that here earlier today.
Yeah, no doubt about it. All right, we got about 20 minutes left here today on the show. We appreciate you hanging out with us here on WWSU 106.9 and our YouTube feed. We're back to normal today, normal time, normal streaming platforms. Um, finally, for the first time in
Yeah,
like 5 days, we're back to normal, and that's
right.
it feels good. But we got 20 minutes to talk about the best stadiums in sports. And shout out to, was this on Facebook that you got this response?
I did. I
Shout
did.
out,
Got this
shout
from
out to Ken.
Ken
Yeah,
on Facebook, so we appreciate that a lot. We sit. It seems like we sit here before shows, and it's like,
all the
what's
time.
what's our debate topic today? We don't know. So,
Yeah,
uh,
well,
pre, pre-
it's easy to come up with an hour of, well, this happened in the NBA last night. This happened in the NFL yesterday. Let's talk about this. That's always pretty easy to come up with every day, but it's
right.
hard to find something that we can debate and go back and forth about every day because we think of stuff for, a week's worth of shows and then we just kind of like, we don't know where we want to go from there. When this is our 11th show now, and we've had to come up with 11 different debate topics, and it's not easy. So
Yeah.
we appreciate you, Ken, on for giving us this idea. I love it. The best stadiums in sports. What sport do you want to start with?
Let's do baseball.
All right. Well, the two that pop to my head are the two oldest stadiums in the league, Wrigley and Fenway, and I think that's pretty
Right.
easy.
Yeah.
Just so historic, such a unique experience with the ivy at Wrigley Field and the passionate Chicago Cubs fans. And then, I mean, I feel like you haven't lived as a baseball fan until you've gone to Fenway and seen the Green Monster and seen what it feels like to be immersed in Boston Red Sox lore. So the two that easily pop out to me for baseball is Fenway Park and Wrigley Field.
Yeah, totally agree with you. There's the history that's involved. I think one of my favorite aspects of both of these places is the manually operated scoreboards. I mean, I love that. It's just the simplicity, the classic look of just baseball in general, taking those plates out of their slots and inserting different numbers and just I mean, it's something that it's what baseball fans dream about is going to Fenway or going to Wrigley. And a few that pop in my mind for me is I mean, I hate the Giants as an organization, but I love Oracle Ballpark there in San
100%.
Francisco, right there on McCovey Cove there. And I mean, it's just awesome,
Yeah.
Gavin Lux hit a home run into McCovey Cove this weekend. I just Oracle is one of my favorites, and right there in Cincinnati, GABP is another one that I love a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that I'm glad you brought up San Fran because I was 100% with you. I went to Oracle Park back when it was still called AT&T in like 2012, 2011, 2012, and sat actually about 8 rows underneath the Coke bottle. It was really cool. But it was when the Reds were in town, and nothing happened the entire game. And I went to go get food in like the fifth inning, and then while I was gone, Devin Mesoraco hit a grand slam for the Reds. So of course, but 100% agree with you with San Francisco. I love Busch Stadium with the Cardinals. I hate the Cardinals, but
Yeah,
Busch Stadium's a unique experience.
I
Dodger Stadium's got to be up there for me. And then two that I don't think as many people think about that I really really like is Coors Field in Colorado. I love the look of Coors Field. I love that kind of vibe of the mountains in Denver in the background. And then City Field with the New York Mets. I think everyone talks Yankees when you go to New York, but the Apple in center field and just the vibe of Queens and the New York Mets, I think it's a unique experience. And obviously, Yankees tickets are insanely expensive. So if I ever make a trip to NYC, you'll probably have to catch me at a Mets game.
Yeah, yeah. And a couple more that pop in mind for me is Petco Park in San Diego.
100%.
I love. I mean, it's been a host for All-Star games multiple times. The Western Supply Building in left field is one that I love.
Mhm.
I mean, the thing that comes to mind for me when I think of Petco Park and that Western Supply Building in left field is Bartolo's home run, baby.
Bartolo has done it. The impossible has happened.
Exactly. So I love that one. I love the pool at Chase Field in Phoenix.
Yeah.
Just the neat little quirks just to find out all these cool quirks and differences that make all these different stadiums unique is something that is really fun for me just to see. Tropicana Field in Tampa Bay is one of the worst stadiums in baseball, if not the worst
All
stadium
sports.
in all of sports. But the tank of rays they have there is really cool.
Hmm.
Another one for me is Marlins Park in Miami. That monstrosity that they have in center field that no one has any idea what the hell it is. But I just it's just
Also, the monstrosity on the field that nobody who knows who the hell any of them are.
Don Mattingly coaching a bunch of people
Double A
nobody's heard
players.
of.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
The
but yeah,
best
I
player
mean,
on the team is Jesus Aguilar.
right. Yeah. But you could go down the list. I mean, baseball stadiums for me are just so cool. There's
Yeah.
nothing like the experience of going to a baseball game.
Yep.
Um, and that's something that I think everybody should get the chance to experience whether you're a baseball fan or not.
100%. I agree. I my uncle and aunt are actually embarking on the journey of going to every stadium in baseball, and I think they're about to hit their 20th when they go to Phoenix later this year.
Right.
So they're almost there. But I've been to. I'm trying to think everywhere I've been. I've been to obviously Great American. I've been to Fenway. I've been to Target Field in Minneapolis, which is another stadium I really like. I've been to Oracle out in San Fran. I've been to Camden Yards. I've been to the Rogers Center, and I have been to Comerica in Detroit. So I've been to 7. I'd love. There's still so many I'd love to go to. I think my mom and I are talking about maybe going to Busch a little later this summer. We could also end up going to Progressive in Cleveland. I think Cleveland's got a pretty cool vibe. I'd love to go to Kaufman. Maybe just make a Missouri trip out of it and go to Busch and Kaufman back to back days. And then, like I said earlier, I mean, I still got to get to Wrigley. I know you want to get to Wrigley as well. I got to get to Yankee Stadium. I got to get to Citi Field. I got to get down to Texas and go to the new Rangers Stadium. So, I mean, there's still a lot of different ways I could go. I'd love to go to Coors. I got to go to Dodger Stadium for sure. But baseball, like you said, it's just such a unique experience where I don't think the Reds have a top tier stadium in baseball. I think I'd put it somewhere probably between like 10 and 15 for best parks. But I love that they have the smokestacks because when they had Aroldis Chapman and now when they have, guys like Amir Garrett and guys like TJ Antone and stuff like that just throw 100 miles an hour. Every time Chapman got a strikeout with like a 103-mile-an-hour fastball, you just see fire shoot out of these smokestacks. And they always play Fallout Boy, light them up, light them up.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It was so cool. So I remember that as like an 11-year-old kid, and that's like the first memory of baseball I got. And how fun is that? Just seeing fire get shot out of a smokestack after a guy threw
Yeah.
103 miles an hour.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, I haven't been to as many baseball stadiums as I would have liked, but I've been to GABP in Cincinnati. I've been to Comerica in Detroit. PNC in Pittsburgh is another one that's really cool. And I've been to both Dodger and Angel Stadium out in California. So I mean, I'm gonna try to hit up Wrigley and I think it's Guaranteed Rate Field there on the
Whatever. It
south
used to
side
be
of
U.S. Cellular, yeah. Now,
yeah. So I'm gonna try to hit up both stadiums when I go to Chicago. I tried to get it there before the end of the summer, but yeah, that's a bucket list goal of mine is to hit up every MLB stadium in my lifetime, which would be something that would be really cool to
yeah.
accomplish. But I'm gonna try to hit up Fenway this summer, taking a trip out east in July. So we're gonna try to hit up Fenway and get there this summer. So. Just lots of cool. I mean, baseball's just such a cool sport.
Yeah,
They don't call it the America's pastime for nothing. So,
absolutely not.
yeah, there's just, I mean, it's just so many cool quirks of all these stadiums, and just the fans are what makes the stadiums and the experience great.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And you mentioned going to Chicago, and I think you'll find a very similar experience to Chicago that there is in New York, where I think you'll have a lot easier time getting Sox tickets than you will getting Cubs tickets. So
Right.
um, it'll be interesting for sure. But let's move on to football. The three that pop in my head for football: Cowboy Stadium. I know everyone hates the Cowboys, but they have maybe the nicest stadium out of any pro sports team. I also got to throw in for me. Heinz Field in Pittsburgh, and I got to throw in Lambeau. Those are the three that jump out to me. Some of them, obviously, like I said, for historic purpose. But just, I think if you don't think football and you don't think Heinz Field, Lambeau Field, and Jerry World, I mean, I think you're being a football fan wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, personally, I've been to Lambeau. It's unbelievable to just see the big atrium there that they have, and then going up and to just see the sky, and then be just the sheer size of it is just unbelievable. A couple that could pop in mind of me. It might be biased, but I love Lucas Oil
Oh, I
in
agree.
Indy.
Love
Um,
Lucas Oil.
it's just the dome is something that I love. Arrowhead is another one that's just awesome to me. I just and some of these newer stadiums are really cool. SoFi out in LA, obviously they're going to host the Super Bowl next year. But some of these monstrosities that are being
What are
built
they
now.
calling the one in Vegas?
Oh,
I don't remember what they're calling
it's
it.
an airline. I know it's an airline of some sort.
Is it?
But um, yeah,
Um,
U.S. Bank Stadium in Minneapolis is another cool one. Um,
you're right. It's a Allegiant Stadium.
Allegiant, that's it. Yeah, that's another cool one. That big torch, that big electronic torch, that monstrosity that Mark Davis had built for however much he
Instead of
paid
getting a
for
good haircut,
it. He could probably afford thousands of haircuts for what that thing cost,
I was gonna
but
say that they can't fix what he's already done. So
but yeah, I mean, I mean, so many cool different places. As far as football goes, um, I hate the Patriots, but the atmosphere. I've never been to the Gillette Stadium, but just watching on TV, the atmosphere at Gillette is really cool.
Boston, man, it's Boston sports.
Right, right. And you look at some of these, like, oh, blanking right now. CenturyLink in Seattle
100%.
is a really cool one. One of the loudest stadiums in all of football. So as well as Arrowhead, it's just football's another sport that there's just passion like none other for me. So bunch of cool different stadiums in football as well as baseball.
Yeah, no doubt about it. 100%. Another one that I want to throw out is the one that just hosted the Super Bowl, Raymond James down in Tampa.
Yeah, yeah. I love one thing I love about that is that big pirate ship they have.
Yeah, it's so
It,
cool.
yeah, yeah. It's awesome, and um, and the one reason I love the U.S. Bank in Minneapolis is at the beginning of every game they have a guy or they have somebody, or either a fan or a former player or whoever, go up and they have a big like a Viking horn that they
Yeah.
that they blow into, and the whole stadium is going skull. It's just it's really cool to
Yep.
see a lot of these traditions that the home fans have at some of these stadiums.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I think that another thing that I love about Raymond James is speaking. I've gone to Blue Jackets hockey games down or up in Columbus, I should say. I appreciate any sports team that has a cannon that they shoot off whenever a score happens, and the Blue Jackets having that for those about to rock, fire. Like it's so fun. I took my
Yeah,
mom. I took my mom to a Blue Jackets game, and I'm like, hey, there's a cannon that goes off when somebody scores, so be ready. And she's like, okay. And then the cannon goes off, and she about wet herself. So she you can't be prepared for the cannon. But um, I love those, like you said, those unique experiences. And I mean, we're gonna have to continue this into tomorrow because we're almost out of time, and we still got to do college football. We still got to do basketball, college
right.
basketball. I mean, there's still
By
so
the way, hockey games are slept on.
Live
They're just
hockey
a
games are
blast.
live hockey games are so fun. The
I mean,
last hockey game I went to was like 2.5 years ago with one of my friends from high school, and we had an absolute blast. And we snuck after the game, we snuck behind the stadium to the players' private parking garage and got like 8 autographs, and it was so fun.
yeah, I mean, there's a local team here in Indy that's a minor league hockey team that it's just a small stadium. They play at the Farmers Coliseum where IUPUI plays. They play there, and it's just a blast. Like, hockey games are slept on as one of the most fun sports experiences you'll ever have.
And hockey, I get that a lot of people, it's hard to kind of follow hockey sometimes, but not
Right.
you don't even have to be in attendance. Playoff hockey is really, really fun to watch. And playoff hockey's on right now, and I'm gonna have to start getting into it because I love playoff hockey. It's really fun back and forth and really intense. So
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
gonna-
I got to catch a couple playoff hockey games the other night. A lot of fun to watch.
yeah, I wouldn't call myself a hockey fan.
Me
Maybe
neither.
I'm a casual hockey fan if that's a thing. I don't watch it a lot, but playoff hockey's really fun to watch. And if you ever have an extra ticket to a hockey game and you want me to come, I mean it's a blast. So
Yeah, no doubt about it. These a live baseball game, um, uh, especially when
college
you're like,
basketball atmospheres are great too. I mean, we call games from the Netter Center, which is by no means the biggest venue for college basketball, but when the Netter Center's packed for an NKU game on a Friday night, I mean, it's great. And those kind of crowd atmospheres that make sports like we're talking about here, those experiences, they start really when you're in high school, those Friday night football games. So I mean, it's something that you get introduced to when you're 14 years old, and it continues all the way throughout your life. So but yeah, I mean, we'll have to do college football, college basketball, and NBA tomorrow. But I mean, just talking about like something as simple as the Netter Center. I mean, the Netter Center
yeah,
gets crazy.
yeah. And granted, when I was in high school, our football team, we didn't have a whole lot to cheer about, but
You cheered when the game was over.
yeah, but give credit to the citizens here. They were always showing up, always supporting. Uh, d- uh, High school football games are some of my greatest high school memories.
Yeah,
Just a
no
lot
doubt.
of fun, and that's where sports fandom starts, and that's at the. I mean, that's the core. That's the roots of uh, just live sports. That's
Right.
where it starts.
And not everyone's like you and I, where we just, we have sports coursing through our blood. But even like, the nerdy kids in high school, myself included, but
Yeah,
the brainiacs in high school,
right. Yeah,
the I guess the group of girls that never like ever want to talk sports and are always talking other stuff. Everybody likes high school football. Everyone shows
yeah.
up at high school football games.
Yeah, yeah, and I would include myself in those big dorks going out to the football games. The sports dork, if you will, going out there and just following the stats
I think we
or
just started a great branding merchandise opportunity. Sports dorks. We could be the sporks.
yes, I
There you
love it.
go. There you go.
I love it. We'll call Morgan and have T-shirts made. Um,
Forget the
but
WWSU branding. We've got a new idea.
we're gonna put sporks on the T-shirt and promote that. But yeah, that's where it starts in high school. So and that leads up to the pro baseball game or the pro hockey games or whatever it may be. So it's definitely a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate you hanging out with us here today, Monday 1 to 3. Like I said, we ran out of time, so we're gonna have to get into college football, college basketball, and NBA tomorrow because I still have a lot of college football stadiums, college basketball arenas that we got to get into. And I'd feel really, really bad if I didn't throw something in there like Cameron Indoor or Assembly Hall, or I mean, Assembly Hall was going to be something for both of us, but
Right.
college football, you have Bryant Denny, you have the Horseshoe, you have the Big House. I mean, there's so much we still got to get into. So we'll continue that tomorrow. But we do appreciate you hanging out with us, whether it was on our YouTube feed at WWSU 1069 FM on YouTube or on WWSU 106.9 FM. We appreciate you rocking with us no matter what. You can follow us on social media at WWSU 1069. Morgan's doing an outstanding job growing us on social media.
Yes,
So
she
make
is.
sure you give us a follow over there. support all the hard work she's putting in. You can also follow us at Parker Testa and at ESPN Shea Neal. Follow us there for all updates on the show, any interactive polls. Hey, if we get big enough, maybe we'll eventually do giveaways too. So keep following us or follow us there, and make sure you keep up to date on everything. Keep it real. Parker, any closing thoughts here on this Monday? Well, recording it on a Sunday, but any thoughts on this Monday of sports?
It was just a great weekend overall. It really was. Baseball was a lot of fun this weekend. I know we talked about golf earlier, but I enjoyed the PGA Championship. Most importantly, the NBA playoffs was a lot of fun to watch. So excited for the week ahead.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And excited for the week ahead as well. I mean, we still got NBA playoffs going on in full gear, NHL playoffs.
Yeah.
And right around the corner, we talked about it a couple weeks ago, but we're going to get that college football preview magazine that Phil Steele does every year, which he does an outstanding job of. He does full breakdowns of rosters, schedules, and all that stuff for all 133 teams or whatever it is in Division I college football. And we're going to start to do conference previews when we get closer to college football season. So be ready for that, because, I mean, there's going to be a lot of debate on who wins the Big 12, who wins the Big 10, who wins the SEC, all that kind of stuff. And, hey, if you're if you're a fan of the Mountain West or you're a fan of the Sun Belt, we've got you too. So make sure you follow us all summer long. We've got a lot still of content to get into, but we appreciate you hanging out with us. And until next time, until tomorrow, I should say, this is Testa and Neal saying, keep it real. We'll see you tomorrow.